Hey everybody, welcome to Should I Love with Jason Stuart and my guest, one of my oldest, dearest friends, legendary acting coach Ivana Chubbuck. And I got to tell you guys, I met Ivana when I was 15 years old,
Aging me.
and aging both of us, in an acting class of a guy named Lawrence Park, who tried really, really hard to help people, but was from such a different era of time. And you actually did the funniest thing, which I talked about in my last podcast with you, is that you were in the class. They did a lot of improvisations, and the door to the class was on the stage. And in the class, in the improvisation, you actually just walked out mad, and we didn't really. And then you never came back. So it wasn't the character that walked out; it was Ivana that walked out.
I walked out because privately didn't know, but this particular human being wasn't very nice to me, and he was actually being very abusive, verbally abusive. And I grew up from such an abusive childhood, from physical and emotional and verbal abuse, that it gets a point in your life where you just go, I'm not taking this anymore, and I'm going to do it theatrically.
Which is right. Yes, it was
waiting for me to return.
And people kept going, "Well, she's coming." What was right? But what's really interesting about it, though, is that when you say that, because we were just talking just right before we started. When I went to your class, we had known each other through being actors, through being comedians. And then we knew each other through Roy London when you were working with him as his assistant, then associate, and then
I was never his assistant.
You were an assistant.
I created him as a teacher. What most people don't know is he was just a guy sleeping on someone's couch, someone we both knew, and I asked my friend whose couch he was sleeping on if he would help coach me on something as a friend to friend, actor to actor, for something I was.
So you knew him when he was just an actor.
I knew him when he was basically sleeping on someone's couch as an actor, and obviously not making a lot of money as an actor because he was sleeping on someone's couch. But needless to say, my friend, I asked him, "Would you do like what actors do a lot? Is they help each other out
all the time?
Yeah, would you coach me on this audition for a Universal project?" And he said, "Well, I would think it'd be better if Roy did this. He's never done this before, but he's got a good eye for things like that. He's helped me before, just as actor to actor." And so I did, and he was so good. And I said, "Roy, would you like to be a teacher?" He said, "Yeah, just get a bunch of people together and I'll teach them." So it took me a bit, and I actually literally, and this is a true story, I was in a comedy improv class, and I had my friends, come, really close friends to my comedy improv class, take the class, as well as anybody who was going to, I was single at the time. If you were going to date me, you also had to join that class. It was part of the deal.
Even if they weren't an actor?
Well, chances are I probably knew you as an actor because that's who we hang out with, right? But if they weren't an actor, sure, they're comics, but the world we were hanging out with.
Exactly.
So they wanted to learn how to act.
So you were with them from the beginning, because I didn't know you when I was in another class. But our paths kept crossing and kept crossing.
But I think it's a really interesting story because to me, it's about empowerment. He comes from an abusive background too. We became good friends as well. Commonality of pain about both of us needing to share the world of the arts through empowerment. It was because we both had similar realities growing up. Abuse and also as a gay man, he was a gay man, that he had a lot of oppression has belonged to him just in life generally, and was felt oppressed and repressed by the world at large. So together as a team, we created a class to help people change and grow, and a system that ultimately, after he passed away, sadly of AIDS, is that I decided to take what we began and take it 10 steps further to a place of
You took it to your own. You took it to your own place.
There's 12 steps. That didn't exist before, and it was all based on the reality of how can I have a very specific way that people can do script analysis, whether it's from the actor, writer, or director's point of view. It's simple. Put math to it. Put steps to it.
I remember reading your book. I have it here on my bookshelf somewhere. I can't see because I don't have my glasses on, but I remember reading, going, "God, this is so simplistic. Anybody can understand this."
Exactly, but yet complicated because it's all based in human behavior.
Tell people the name of the book.
It's called The Power of the Actor.
That's what I thought.
It has been translated into 20 languages and still some more to come.
But I got to tell you, what I really loved was that little silver book that you handed out in class way before. I love that. Even I shouldn't say this, but it doesn't exist anymore. But and I still use it.
Well, I have some private copies.
Yes, I use that quite a bit. And because of studying with Roy, when I was making the transition from getting off the road, I went to you. Mm-hmm. And I remember going to the class and sitting in the class because one would have to come to the class and watch. Mm-hmm. And then I remember getting irritated when they were talking because I remember thinking, oh, God, I'm not going to go to a beginner's class. I'm just not going to do it. Mm-hmm. And I'm having this whole conversation in my head. And then I said, you at the end of the class, you let everybody ask questions. And I said, well, Ivana, I probably wouldn't want to go into it. And you just interrupted me and you said, Jason, you'll be in the master class, of course. And then you said something right before we started that the thing that you did for me, do you remember what you want to say? Because you were just going to say it a second ago. You gave me this incredible amount of confidence and you treated me as a peer in the class. And it changed me because it was the first time I was in a class as an adult, really feeling that somebody was giving me my due for how hard I'd worked. And I think you do that for a lot of people, and you treat everybody differently in the class depending on what was going on with them.
Well, I try to explore whatever growth that they need, not just as an actor, but as a human being.
Because your acting problems are your life problems. It's the same exact thing.
It really is. And so, and the way I purpose overall objective and scene objective is really an objective that will help you solve first the character's issues on the page, and then therefore by personalizations actually attempt to solve and often do solve the issues that are in your personal life. And so I see what these people, what their issues are in life, because we explore. It's very secret, private relationship, because the class is nobody's allowed to watch. No journalists. And I've been asked by the world at large if they can come in and.
But you also go up to people and you whisper in their ear.
I do that, so it's really, really private.
Right. So you don't say where it's.
But let me finish. So the thing is that with that privacy of people to be open and reveal their deepest, their darkest, to explore the things that give them shame generally, to actually explore it from a place of empowerment. This is the very things you to take to your place of empowerment and solving through your objective.
But I think this is really important. I can't hate to interrupt you, and I'm dying to, but I can't, because it's what you said before that's so important and made me feel so safe in the class. Mm-hmm. Is that you came over and you whispered to people. You would know really, really personal things, but you'd never mention in the class. There was no feeling of being abused or being treated badly in front of people and being shamed. Power plays.
That was one of the issues I had with that person I walked out on, is because I said two could play this game, So the thing is that sometimes I feel like I have to take upon myself within my personal relationships. Say I'm being emotionally abused by a friend.
You'd always bring up your personal things that are happening. You'd say, this is what's happening with me now regarding this, regarding my daughter, regarding this relationship, this is what happened with this. And you would say in class, and this is how I was dealing with it. You would find a way to bring it back to the work.
Well, the reason why I do that is because I talk about myself to give people permission to talk about themselves. If I'm asking someone to reveal some things that are very difficult for them to reveal to anyone, including themselves, I have to be the one that shows the bravery first. And I also have to look at all the things that have happened to me currently, because life happens, bad things happen, and you have to look at it as whether it's from the past or from the present. It's there's always something to learn. There's always something to gain from it. There's always empowerment to say I'm a survivor and I can overcome and win in spite of and because of the very things that have happened, are happening. All of the above. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday who is also a very, very big time TV producer, who's going through all kinds of issues, political issues that are really trying. This business, this business is very cutthroat, and through a series of things that were not true. He was let go, and
which happens all the time.
All the time. And but then in his getting an attorney to like counter all these things, it turns out that there was absolutely nothing there, and there was actually someone like underneath that had like a bone to pick with this person and was able to do this. So my conversation with him last night was, this is probably the best thing that ever happened to you. You're seeing it as like as grief and a problem, and you might as well quit. So this is like giving you the ability to do something that you want to do more than the show that you're on. And so, and he said, well, indeed.
So there's a sense of empowering to most of your students and to people that you work that you give them, and that's what you gave me. A great sense of empowerment. I mean, you've worked with some of the biggest people in the business. I mean, I remember when I went in, the two big people that everybody was talking about, of course, was Halle Berry, who won the Oscar for Monsters Ball a little after before I came into class, and Charlize Theron, who had won the Oscar for Monster. And I think your name was mentioned in one of the acceptance speeches. And do you think certainly those are the dreams for people to be, because that kind of an award is not given to you from fans, which is lovely, but it's given to you by your peers. So those are the people that you work with, and that's the hardest to get in the business, is to get the people to
those are your peers, that
are your peers.
Well, one of the things that because I have schools all over the world now, because this technique really is about taking pain, fears, and insecurities and finding a way to use that to overcome and win with, as opposed to self-destruct with. So it's been useful in people all over the world. I have like actors that have become stars in their country who barely did 1 or 2 lines in anything, who are winning their Oscars, their Emmys, their Tonys, and places all over the world, basically using the idea that everybody can relate to pain. Everybody can relate to fear and insecurities. What people don't understand is how to utilize that to benefit your journey in life, as opposed to making it as a point of defeat. It really should be something that allows you to explore change, growth, and involvement, and therefore some personal, prosperity, prosperity and your own sense of accomplishments that you have, like literally, whether it's in the statue or in your heart or both.
And then the work ethic of some of the people that you talked about, Charlize's work ethic quite a bit. I remember about how she would come to class in between films and just do it. I remember in Roy's class, Sharon Stone was like that. She would come in and just work her butt off, and she was somebody who was never afraid of looking bad. And that's something that that was the hardest thing for me. That was, it's letting that go and just...
Well, it is the hardest thing for most people to do. I find that if you look at looking bad is also the only way you can look good, is a way to think of life as you can't, like light and dark. I don't know the dark if I don't know the light. I can't know how to look good in front of other people or explore how other people perceive me as great if I don't understand my failings and how bad I'm capable of being. I think it's interesting to me. It's like when this includes like Halle Berry and all these people that like I've worked with before they leave to go off on location, and they'd be crying or upset and having panic attacks.
Right.
Saying it's like, I can't.
The most successful people who have been successful in other roles and
but it's not even, they do this. Great people.
Right.
Understand the other side of things, and like the more you raise the bar, the more you're capable of how far you can fall too. But you have to understand both.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And so if these people, I always know they're going to give a great performance when they leave with massive anxiety about what they're about to do. They said they work harder, the work ethic becomes even stronger, and the idea is again understanding how much further I can grow and accomplish in this role by understanding how big I can fall. So failure, the understanding of failure is also going to be your understanding of success. And you can't have success unless you truly, without judgment, see failure as a bad thing. Failure is a good thing. Charlize Theron said about me in the actor's studio, she said, I learned more when I fell on my face and I fell on my face a lot.
Uh-huh.
Exact words, verbatim. But she said...
Easy for her to say.
Well, because she did. She fell on her face a lot.
But look how she's one of...
Well, that's because of that notion. She understood that notion. And the notion of, like, failure isn't to feel bad about yourself. Failure is knowledge.
I read...
you hear that? Failure is knowledge.
Yes, I know. I hear it. I hear it.
A very important statement there.
We had a conversation a couple weeks ago about David Boreanaz.
Mm-hmm.
That you've been working with him, and you work with him on his new show, SEAL Team, and then before you worked with Bones, and then before that, Angel, I guess.
No, I think I started with him on Bones.
On Bones.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really interesting he's become one of the most successful television actors around, certainly in series actors.
Bones is one of the most popular American series all over the world. And they're copying it in different countries all over the world. It's one of the few American shows that almost every country has picked up as one that they want from America. How many shows do they have to pick from?
Right,
every time I'm at any place in all the different workshops I do, I'll reference Bones. I said, you guys have Bones here? And I'll go, yeah. We have Bones here, so I can reference the work I've done on that show with him, because there's a reason why everybody relates to it, because we never made it be about procedure. It's a procedural show.
Which is the hardest thing to do.
Well, it's not that hard if you do.
I think it is.
Well, let me tell you why it's not that hard and how I perceive. It's, people want relationships. They look to whether it's theater, movies, or television. Relationships are of key importance, and what I would say is that every episode, the plot of whatever the plot is of that procedure, of that case, is going to facilitate growth in the relationship between you and Emily Deschanel. And Emily was also, both of them would come to the house and work every weekend on every episode. And together as a team, we created, this episode is about this exploration of the growth of your relationship. So when you look at Lethal Weapon, for example, Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, you remember their relationship. Do you remember the plots of those?
No.
Not one, but you remember their
Danny
relationship.
Glover, Mel Gibson. There was the first one was probably one of the most exciting, and the first time I ever really fell in love with a buddy comedy. And everybody's been trying to copy that film since.
But what they're trying to do is make it about plot. And they go back to the relationship. If it's about relationship, that's what people go.
But you also have helped David with dialogue, making the dialogue more real, making it more...
Was it more real, more competitive, more fun, more of like the idea of who's going to win this, putting that kind of contest. I always believe that human beings have a competitive nature. It's like before theater was born 2,000 years ago, but there's proof that there's been games and sports played by even Neanderthal man, before man was even upright. They played games. So our very primal nature is to want to win and play games. So put that into work, because the people that we are most compelled by in terms of just our personal relationships are people that inspire us to be able to play the game with them. Like, I love people that can throw it back at me as well as I can throw it.
That's interesting, because I remember doing a scene from Marty in class with you, and I don't know if you remember this, and you said something that really surprised me. We did the scene, and you said, God, how did you you turned your back, and you said to the class, you said to the class, how did you play a heterosexual so real? Mm-hmm. And I said to you, well, that's me. That guy is me. Mm-hmm. And you said, oh. And this was probably around, I guess, close to 10 or 15 years ago. Mm-hmm. And you said, oh, I didn't know that. And I thought, wow. In the class, you saw that inside of that guy was who I was.
It had nothing to do with being gay.
Right, it was just playing the scene.
And the scenes, for anybody who doesn't know Marty.
But you were there was a willing, Marty is
very famous, but not everybody knows
no.
it. But the thing is, the bottom line is he's very uncomfortable in his own skin regarding relationships. And he doesn't think he's good enough. He thinks he's the loser in relationships. And it had nothing to do with being gay or straight. It had to do with the inherent reality that you feel that you don't have that either. And it was beautiful. Yeah. I remember crying. And,
do you?
Yeah, I remember crying and thinking, like, that's why I asked that question. I asked that question because I thought, like, you really touched me, but, then I realized from what you had said, it's me. I'm like, I put a judgment call on a sexual predilection, which is
But you were
really
still
wrong.
willing. There was a willingness of you to turn to the class and you said, "Oh yeah, well I've learned something tonight."
Exactly.
And you said
But
that
I don't
in
want
a
to stop
class.
learning.
Exactly.
This is really important.
And that's what's really was so fundamental about the class for me.
Can I tell you about what I also with David and Emily to make
Please.
the procedural?
Please.
Even during the times when they were interrogating something like a normal, like all the TV shows that are procedurals, there's always the interrogation scenes, not one but several. And I always had it be like without changing lines, just had them compete whose interrogation was better.
Oh, who was better? Who
better?
Who got the better question? Who got the better way of saying it? Who was more clever?
Who got the better response? And it was always that they were looking at each other going, "Ooh, you won that one. Oh, I won this one." And so it's what it made, again, about relationship. And
which is about sex in a sense too, because about the sexuality between them. It makes it more interesting to watch because we love watching things about relationships.
About relationships.
Exactly.
And of course there's an underbelly of sexuality and heart and soul and all of that. But the idea is like I don't compete with people unless I'm interested. And I compete harder the more I respect you, the more I love you. And so the thing is, it creates a even more love dynamic that may not even be there between the two people that are playing those parts.
You also brought Sylvester Stallone back from his monosyllabic action films when he did.
I would say there he did some good stuff like
he did
and stuff like that.
He did some good stuff. Yeah, but he seemed to be. He reminded me of Burt Reynolds. Because both of them were incredibly charming, funny, sexy, talented men, but always chose to do what was easiest in their career.
Why he actually called me up, and he didn't have his people called. It's like I love, like Halle Berry. She just called me up, herself. Stallone did. I was like really interested. I'd answer the phone and it'd be like, "Hello, this is Sly." We like, "Oh my God,
who's playing a thing on me? Is this a joke? This is a comedian." Like him, but like, Sly who?
Sly Steinberg. So anyway, so the really big people, they really are humble.
Because it's also personal. This is not like it's not
so
like
many people have their people call. I just find like the bigger you are, the more humble and more connected you are to the people that you want to communicate with from your artistic place. So anyway, he said, I feel like my artistry has atrophied. His words atrophied, and I feel like you're the person that helped me explore, change.
This is for Creed, the first one that he was nominated for supporting actor for.
Yeah, and also the one he won, awards that he had never won before.
Tons.
Like People's Choice Award, a Critics' Choice Award, National Board of Review. I mean, just like
it brought him back to where the character was.
What he created in the first place. But what we did was I said, look, you've already done Rocky. You are Rocky. You created Rocky. Let's explore what happened to Rocky after all the issues of his life happening, all the death that's happened. And within the script, he has a diagnosis of cancer that he was going to die from. And so what we used was, so I try to explore empowerment through whatever your personal stuff is. I try to use that in your work so you can solve it in your life as well as create an environment of other people who are watching. Go, maybe I could change my world too through watching this person's journey. So his son had died 3 years before, Sage, and no parent ever gets over a child's death. And so I said, let's use that as who this Creed's son is, and the idea that you never got a chance to say what you wanted to say to your son that passed, but this is where you're going to have the ability to do that. And he wasn't sure he wanted to kind of tackle that because it's scary territory. And so I said, just for the hell of it, let's pick any scene out of the script, and literally sat next to me on my couch where I teach in my home. And we read a scene, and I just said, just see me as your son, and say to me within the words on the page what you wanted to tell your son before he died. And so he did, and he was crying, I was crying. He said, okay, I'm in. And from an article, one of his quotes, he said in New York Times, he said, it was scary, but ultimately it ended up being very comforting and cathartic. comforting and cathartic. So
people say that all the time, even in some of the worst movies. I mean, I was watching a documentary on Joan Rivers on E! The other day. It just happened to be on, and she said, when I did the movie about my life, about my husband committing suicide, it really helped me and my daughter's relationship. When I watched the movie, what I saw was, I went, oh my God, she's really a good actress. We never see her do stuff. But of course, the weirdness of playing yourself is so odd in a movie, but you could see, oh, so she was doing, I said, that's what Ivana teaches. And sometimes people do that. Sometimes you can do a role and you can do the work and you come out on the other side. Mm-hmm. Somebody else said recently, it's like acting is like therapy. It's like being paid to do therapy.
Well, one of my actors once said, the way I teach acting is therapy without the cure. Uh-huh. So it's like, we're not getting a therapy session. Sometimes when people go on and on in class about their lives, I said, look, this isn't therapy. We're not in group therapy here. We're using this to inform and explore the art on the page, and therefore explore and your own growth as a human being. And so, but we start getting caught up in the reality of, you've got to be real careful of the therapy reality, because it really is meant to inform art. And art is flawed by its very nature. Perfection and art are antithetical. And so the more neurotic, the more flawed, the more the issues, the characters on the page have the bigger of a mountain to climb to find the other side. And so that becomes dramatic. And it becomes a dramatic journey, as opposed to like trying to find, there's therapists for that. There's a whole group of people on the planet that went to school to understand how to explore that. My thing is to be able to empowerment through the arts. Very important statement of my empowerment by passing that along to my students, whether they're actors, writers, or directors.
Actors, say it clear.
Actors, writers, or directors.
Yes. Because I think it really helps the writers.
No, definitely helps the writers.
Because that's where it all starts. That's the roots.
That's the roots. And they have to tell the story. The actor, the writer, and the director tell a story together. And we have to have a unified vision. It's not having one
the producer
vision.
Gets it out there, yeah.
And hopefully.
Oh.
Yeah. And so we have the obligation as artists within the environment of movies and TV that more people see that than go to church. And
that's my office phone for everybody there.
Okay.
That was another robocall.
We hung up on them. Okay, so
it's a robocall.
Okay. Good. Let's hang up on themselves. Anyway, so the obligation of the artist is to pass along to their audience that if this person on the screen can take the same issues and pain and stuff that's happened to them and their lives and that I have in my life, then perhaps so can I. And so that your exploration as the writer, director, or actor, mine as the facilitator of that message, then allows the larger world, billions of people on this planet who watch TV and movies are now allowed to be a part of the journey of empowerment through the arts.
Well, I think for me, I have learned so much from watching films, going to the theater, watching television, things that I would never have even understood by reading because I'm dyslexic. And things are harder for me to comprehend. I have to read it, and though I do love to read, and I read all the time, but it gave me an understanding of different kinds of cultures, different way of being. I love seeing a movie that is completely not my point of view. And I remember seeing Dances with Wolves. It's like almost 30 years ago, and I knew so little about Indians. And now this film would not be made where the white guy saves the day, but at the time, it really changed how I thought about stuff in this country. I thought, oh, wow.
Well, it's like, that's the whole point, is like that you and most people actually have a TV set, and they have and computers and ways to communicate in the world, to get information, and in an entertaining way, not just in a way that.
So we'll listen.
So we'll listen.
Exactly. And you you've created such a dynasty in a way. Your daughter now teaches with you.
Yes,
and
which is amazing.
And you've created such a dynasty in your class. How do you think? It's such a hard question to ask because you probably don't have the exact answer. But how do you think you become one of the most leading acting coaches in Los Angeles and in the world? I would guess. How do you think you did it? I mean, certainly being mentioned on the Academy Awards was a big deal. Certainly having people like Brad Pitt, Beyonce Knowles, Jake Gyllenhaal. I mean, you helped Elizabeth Shue, who's basically was just some cute, pretty girl, and leaving Las Vegas, it completely changed her career for a number of years. So many. Now you're working with Shia LaBeouf, who's trying to reconstruct his career in terms of his image, but as an actor, my God,
he's amazing.
An amazingly
he's
wonderful
amazing,
actor.
A true artist and someone who will. I could tell him to do anything. And so many people would be fearful to do, and he's willing to try that, and then has ideas off of that. It's like such a profound experience to work alongside this human being. He's a pretty amazing guy, an actor and force of nature for real. I mean,
somebody who doesn't want to give up no matter what was going on in his life. He never gave up his art.
Well, because he is pure, it's a pure notion of art is who he is, and so he doesn't let other, bullshit things that how the world says you're supposed to think or be, allow him to change how he wants to
be perceived.
Or he doesn't care about being perceived.
That's what I mean. He doesn't care about
how. He doesn't care about how he actually is going to explore, art in ways that nobody even thought were possible. He wants to be a part of that journey. And so that's what makes working with him so delightful and inspiring and all that. But you asked me a question about how did I get to that place.
Right, how?
I find that if you really love what you do, and just do it, just be tenacious and with tunnel vision, just do it. I find that the gravy is that success happens. I remember the first time I was able to not have to work out my checkbook because I said I had enough money in my account and I didn't have to think about that.
Right.
But it was because I was always doing that. I was to a T, I'd have 1 penny left, so I have to be real careful on how, because all the charges they have at the bank and da-da-da-da. And then it occurs to me as things happen, wait, I'm not in that place anymore. But it's not because I tried to be that's a kind of successful. It's because I loved, without distraction, to teach, acting, to empower people through the arts, to be able to take their worst of circumstances and say, I can help you on your with your ability to be able to feel like a prosperous human being, not necessarily financially, but from your heart and from your spirit, because I've lived through so much that I want to be able to take that information and help other people find their way too. And it happens by accident. So I have emails that I get all over the world that my book, because I put in the book a lot of my own issues and things that have happened to me, and how I use this craft to be able to change my own life. And then people I've done classes for all over the world, and I've been all over the world.
No, I know, because you actually teach in West Hollywood still 3 nights a week, right? Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then on the weekends you go someplace and teach somewhere else.
Yeah, but the success happens because you love it and you want to work many hours because of it.
Yeah. And plus all your private people during the week, all the...
I know, there's a lot. And there's phone calls now, so I work with people all over the world, not just people who come to the house anymore.
And it's not just famous actors, it's working actors like myself. Yeah.
Exactly. And I don't really count them as famous actors versus working actors versus even new actors, because to me, there's an open mind. I want a sponge in front of me. That's what I want. And if you're the kind of person, I don't care how big a star you are, if it's going to be a relationship of where I have to worship you, I don't want to have this relationship.
No, of course.
I don't expect you to worship me. In fact, I make people not do that. And I want to feel like there's an equal reality. I learn, you learn, I learn off of you, you learn off of me. We are together as a team exploring change, growth, and to the pinnacle of what we can do before we die. And so if, no matter what that person's background, whether they have success, or just
Being able to
want
make
to have a relationship with someone that's going to help them find their way, I'm in.
I mean, you've taken a lot of people who, I think people in the beginning, Travis Himmel. Vimmel.
With the F.
And the F, I never can.
Ragnar Lothbrok, Vikings.
Yes, I mean, you took
Vikings.
Who, when I met him, was a Calvin Klein model who had done a series called Tarzan for one season, and people just didn't think he was going to go anywhere.
And he worked so hard, and
he did constantly. And I remember watching him change and seeing this guy that had no ego about the way he looked, though he was such a beautiful man.
Gorgeous, but in fact, he really hated that's what people saw first, because he's so.
Which I would love if people said. Right. That would be my fantasy. I remember he did a film with Rebecca Miller. I can't remember the name of it.
What's it called? Anyway, he played a pickle salesman.
And he was so completely. That was the first time I ever saw him in something that was who I had seen him in class, and it wasn't these. I want to tell people what the movie is. It was just such a wonderful film, and he was so great in it. And I went to a screening of it, not knowing that he was in it, and I was just so impressed. Maggie's Plan. Yeah.
Yes. So he knows the name of the girl, who's the name of the main character. Well, the main thing is he's looking for roles that aren't necessarily of size, of starring role, because he gets offered like the leading man, the good looks,
right? The charm,
and he turns those down for parts that are like that character that you liked him in Maggie's Plan. We played a pickle salesman that wore a hat that looked like he was coming out of Utah,
right,
off the slopes, and it was a real character. And he's been doing those kinds of roles. He did Lean on Pete, which was another playing a really screwed up, out of control father who loved his son very much, but it was just one like.
That was Andrew Haigh, who is an incredible director. Who did 42, I think it was, or
Lean on Pete's won so many awards.
Yes,
and he was. It's just like that's what he's doing now. He's doing all those kinds of roles. He's doing it right now, a TV series for Ridley Scott.
42, 45.
I love it.
That was the name of the movie, 45.
45. I don't know that one.
That Charlotte Rampling got an Oscar nomination for. It was about this older couple. And it was he also did in the gay community a film called Weekend, which was probably one of my favorite movies of all time.
I'm going to check that out. This guy's so good.
Yeah. He also did the series Looking, which was wonderful on HBO. And this director's absolutely I've probably written to him around 10 times. Never hearing back from him, but I have written to him. And
I'll ask Travis to set you up.
Well, not for that reason. I've written because I want to work with him.
No, that's what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Whoops.
Okay, went down a different street there.
See some sweat.
Oh my God. Okay, so you work with Meg Ryan too, huh?
Yeah.
And Jim Carrey and Judith Light. Judith Light. I mean, you actually coached her with 2 back-to-back Tony Awards, and this is a woman who had done soap opera and then a TV series. And with Tony Danza, who's the boss for years, and had this image and this look. And this is when people who were over 40 especially women, didn't get a second chance. And then she went on to do Wit. And I remember it because I went, oh, she shaved her head to do the role. And she really, really did it. And
she's very courageous. And one of the things she tells me to tell my students, she says, you have to work really hard. You have to work on everything. I coach her on everything. And she says, tell your people that there's no small part. Work on everything. Break it down. Do your script analysis. Take chances. Push the envelope. Grow. Keep growing and working hard on your craft, because things will happen. Because one of the things when I first met her was that she, in her words, was a woman of age and a woman, and that opportunities for women of age in this industry are rare and far and few between. And I said, with blinders on, we're just going to do the work. I want you to focus on just really accomplishing what your objective is, with a point of view of having it like as a mission that you need to do this for the character, but more importantly for your own personal journey of our personalizations. And she'd walk in the rooms, and be like a force. So next thing I know, she's like getting offered everything. She's not only not getting a pilot, she's getting 3 pilot offers. She went, for instance, Ugly Betty for just a recur, and it was supposed to be just a couple of episodes, to becoming one of the regulars. Transparent as well, by the way. It was just supposed to be a recurring, and they made it a.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, she's been doing that off of the work that we've been doing and the hard work that she does. And then you just get, because she doesn't live here, she lives in New York. If she can't be in my home, she tries to make it here whenever she can, because it's always better when the person's face to face. But
so you do it on Skype or on FaceTime? Or?
Well, it's audio, because I feel people on more of a cellular level.
Oh, okay.
There's something about looking at those screens at Skype or FaceTime that I find myself just looking at myself, and then I'm like, I'm not coaching. I'm going, ooh, I look awful, and I'm not thinking about it. So like, I'm just gonna like cut that out, because I know these people so well. You know how I dig. We dig deep together. You know me, I know you, and ways that nobody, including my husband and daughter and my family, know. We know each other's secrets in ways in that way. And so the thing is, I feel you. If I can feel you over a phone line, then I know it's going to visually be very provocative and amazing. And so
I do like Skype, though, I have to say. I wrote my whole book on Skype with my writer. I wrote the whole book.
But you're not performing. That's a whole different thing.
I guess so.
Okay, because if you're performing, you have to get into the body of somebody. And if you're looking at yourself, how are you going to morph into... So this way of working, my way of working, you become the character. And so how do you do that when you're busy? They're busy looking at themselves, because you can see both sides. I'm looking at myself. And the next thing I know is like, I said, what did I say to you? He's like, oh, I'm seeing a pimple I didn't know I had. Wrinkles. Thought I took care of those. So, it's like, to me, if I can feel you through the phone line, it's going to be great when people see the visuals. And it's been working for a long time. I've gotten a lot of people major awards, just phone call stuff.
But it certainly isn't about the awards, but what the awards are. Just to say to people listening at home, I always think the awards are about getting the next job. To me, it's part of the stepping stone to doing that.
Also,
because
acknowledging all the hard work you've done, and all the years you put in. And so, like, okay, it wasn't for naught that I lived so small for so long. And because, like, what people don't get, they have a tabloid reality. They think everybody was born to rich and fame. And it's not the way it is. So all those years where you struggled on your day job, the job that you hate, the living very small, living on ramen noodles, and that's about it, and skipping meals because you want to pay for your acting class, which is what the case was with Brad Pitt and Charlize Theron. They have no money, but they had to work all these like terrible jobs and live with many, many people, but it was okay because ultimately you're doing it for the love of your craft. So when you get those awards, it becomes the kind of thing that says, like, it was worth all those years, because it takes years. It was worth all those years where I lived small, because I was happily, proudly working on my craft.
When I say to people, oh, I want this, I want that, I said, well, then you don't want to be an actor, because our lives are not that. Our lives are, for me, I always lived small, and I always was careful about what I did, and the most important thing was whether I was going to be able to have money to take a plane and go meet some director if I had to. That's how I got Birth of a Nation. I just got on the plane, and I just used a freaking flyer, and some guy named, Nate Parker wanted to meet me, and I went and met him, and that was it. And if I didn't have the money to do that, I wouldn't have gotten the part, or be able to go to New York and audition for something, or go someplace else, or be able to go spend the money with acting classes, or to spend the money to have someone coach me on a role, because I felt that I needed that.
That's the whole thing. It has to be, your priorities have to be pride in your craft, really loving the craft and the art form, and loving it enough that you're willing to not have things that...
If you want a things life, this is not it.
If you want a comfortable life, it's not it. I think it was Thoreau who said that once he got famous, he remembered thinking the time when he was was struggling was actually the time he remembers with fondness the most.
Everybody's, a lot of people, he said that, but a lot of people have.
Yeah, well, that makes sense,
you know.
right? And if you don't have that struggle time, and there's no satisfaction in your success, but you also have to love it enough to know that there's a possibility that success may not happen too. There's no guarantees that will happen.
Well, it happens in a different way. It happens in being able to make a living, be able to have a career, for a lot of people.
Well, what I'm saying is sometimes it's a path to what it is that you're supposed to be doing. Like me being an acting teacher. I started off as an actor. I never would have thought in a million years I'd love, first of all, be an acting teacher, and second of all, love it as much as I do. But I became an acting teacher because I came here as an actor. I thought that's all I wanted to do. But when friends talk to each other, they help each other. Actor friends always help each other out. I found myself really liking that experience better. And people would say they'd give their best performances when I'd give them my friendly notes, and then ultimately started charging just a wee little bit. And then became a school, which is, then that started flourishing because then I realized I don't really want to be an actor at all. But I had
God,
never...
it makes me want to go back to class.
Well, you've seen it. You know how much I love it.
Yes.
People, they just they feed off of the love that I have for it. But I would never have had that if I hadn't come to try to be an actor. So the issue is follow your dreams. It may take you to another path, but it will be the path that you're meant to be on. But follow your dreams, because it's the only way that you're going to find what you're supposed to be doing, whether it's the dream itself or the dream that's an offshoot of what it is that you thought was going to be your life's path. That's a very important notion, by the way, because a lot of people just set about, I either can't do it, this is not, I won't be able to, so I'm just not going to. Or I'm not sure that's what I want to do, so I'm not going to explore it. Or if something comes at you while you're in the midst of trying to follow your dreams, and it's not exactly your dream that you planned out.
That's what's happening
for
me. That's exactly my road has been there. I started as an actor, veered off being a comedian, veered off writing and producing my own things, and doing my podcast and all these other things. But when I go and I sit down with myself, what do I want to do? I always say, I want to act. That's where I feel the best.
Well, this is,
and that's where I go back to working. And then somebody says, things always, what are you worried, Jason? Something always happens. And I think if you put that out there, then things, if you build it, it will come.
And it has been, like you said, you were talking to me about that short.
Oh, yeah.
You're doing, and that's just getting a lot of nice attention. And that just you're finding parts of playing a bigoted slave owner versus some of all the different varied characters that.
Well, just as I was telling you, I have the Some Immortal coming out, and I have a 6-minute scene, and I remember you talking about. You said that's the best thing for an actor is to have, rather than being in a million scenes, to have that one great scene in a film. Mm-hmm. And they only gave me 2 pieces of information. One was that he had a low voice, and the second is that he was intimidating. And I thought, well, when I started in your class, I probably couldn't have done that. And now that's a part of who I am. And I used a lot of the things that we learned in class in that part, and the preparation for that part. And it was quite a success for me in myself, and now the film is going to be able to be out for people to see.
Yeah, which is wonderful, and that's the whole idea. Is that had you not done all these things that you're putting out there, and then certain things that happened that it seemed like at the time their devastation, that things that I can't get past this, or this is really broken my heart.
Many.
Those things, if they hadn't happened, would have put you in a place where you had to, look at something that you would have never looked at because you were too busy doing the other thing, and then this happens all the time to my actors. It's they'll get fired off of a movie or a show, or they'll. They didn't get the thing they almost came close to, and they thought this was going to make and break their career. And it turned out that the movie that they got fired off of, for example, one particular person, which will remain nameless, but is a huge star, became a flop of a movie and would not have been able to do the movie that did make this person a huge award-winning star. but they could have done it because it would have.
I always say sit with yourself. Sit with yourself for a moment. Mm-hmm. Pause, wait, and see what the right thing is and what really comes to your heart and what you really want to do and why you want to do it. And I always say that the experience of being on the set, that's what I love, is the experience of being on the set and working with the people in that moment when everybody works together. That means every single person you can think of, from the director, the writer, the producer, all the main people, to the acting coach who helped you, mm-hmm. to the gal who helped put your costume together, to the person who did your makeup, all the people that in that moment it all has to happen.
Yeah.
And that's
your joy.
That's my joy, yes. And
my joy is my classroom.
Exactly.
When I'm on the set, I look at my watch a lot.
and with that, I want to know, as we wrap this up, people can go to ivanachubbuck.com, and I always say it's. I always think that people think Ivana is 2 N's and Chubbuck is 1 B. It's the other way around. What you think? It's 1 N, 2 B's. ivanachubbuck.com, and you can find out how to get a hold of her class and speak to her peeps and
the book
and the book
The Power of the Actor.
And if you were really special, you might, if you're in the class, you might get the other little book, which I love, the little silver book, which I have right over here in my office. It's been such a joy to have you on the show, and a joy to have you a friend. I love getting to know you more as we get older. I really do. I love that.
Well, that's a good part about getting older.
Thank you so much.
I love you. You know that.
I love you too. Until next time, take care, everybody.